The church buzzed. Christmas Eve had arrived. Children ran, voices high, costumes tangled, choir sheets scattered. Mrs. Clement pressed her lips. She carried a paper in her hand. Her eyes narrowed. "This is not mine," she said. The Reverend looked up. "Not yours?" She shook her head firmly. "I typed the schedule myself this morning." Her hand trembled as she raised the sheet. Now everything is wrong. The children went quiet. The choir boys stopped teasing. Only the rustle of costumes filled the air. Lady Bantry strode in. Her parcels dropped on a pew. Her cheeks flushed. "What is it, Griselda?" Mrs. Clement showed her the paper. "The service is moved. 15 minutes late. The readings are shifted. The pageant is reversed." Bantry laughed lightly. "Well, it's Christmas. Things always muddle." Mrs. Clement did not laugh. Her eyes stayed fixed. "My machine does not type like this. Look here. The letter E is raised. That is not my typewriter." Silence spread. The Reverend stepped closer. He frowned at the page. "She's right. Different type. Different hand." Inspector Slack entered through the side door, his coat damp with snow. "What's this fuss?" he asked. Mrs. Clement turned to him. "Someone changed my schedule. It is not mine. It has been rewritten." Slack scratched his chin. "Could be a mistake." Marple sat at the side pew. Knitting needles clicked once, then stopped. Her faded eyes lifted. She spoke quietly, almost to herself. Mistakes rarely move with such precision. Bantry smiled, uneasy. "Oh, my dear, it is only Christmas chaos. Nothing ever runs to plan this time of year." Marple's eyes stayed on the page, her voice low, measured, sharp. "No, my dear," she said. "It never all goes wrong at once. Not unless someone wanted it to." The air shifted, hands stilled. Slack froze mid-step. Bantry's smile faded. Children clutched their robes. The Reverend cleared his throat. But no words came. The altered sheet hung in Mrs. Clement's hand. The raised E stood plain, different type. Different plan. Marple folded her knitting back in her lap. Her eyes never left the paper, her mind already moving ahead. She spoke again, softer now, almost kind. "But why? Why here? Why tonight?" Her words landed heavy. Every ear strained, every face turned. The vicar's wife clutched the paper tighter. Slack tapped his notebook. Bantry shifted her parcels. The children whispered to each other, uneasy, scared, confused. The clock struck 4. The bells carried over the nave. Time moved forward. The page in Mrs. Clement's hand did not change. Marple's words lingered. Not a shout, not a warning, just truth. And in that truth, suspicion was born. The room froze at her tone. The clock struck 5. The church glowed. Then darkness. The Christmas tree flickered, lights sputtered, then failed. A gasp rose. Children clutched each other. Choir boys muttered. Mrs. Clement dropped her hymn sheets. "Not the lights," she whispered. All eyes turned. The tree stood tall. Ornaments shimmered faint. No glow remained. Mr. Lugg stepped forward. His toolbox clanked. "Stand back," he said. He knelt at the base. His hands searched wires. He frowned. "This isn't right." He held up a small piece. A wire jammed in place, not a fuse. Slack moved closer. "What is it?" Lugg shook his head. "Deliberate. Wrong gauge. 15 amps shoved where 5 should be." He looked around the room. Someone wanted this to fail. Murmurs spread. Mrs. Clement pressed her hands together. "Could it be a mistake?" Lugg's tone firm. "No mistake. You need skill to fit this. Someone tampered." Slack's jaw tightened. Deliberate sabotage, then. He scanned faces. Suspicion rising. Children tugged at costumes. Voices buzzed low. Fear hung heavier than silence. From the loft above, steps echoed, slow, measured. Carraway appeared. He adjusted his jacket. His chin lifted. "Most unfortunate," he said, as though darkness answers to no one. He looked at the tree, then at the crowd, his voice smooth, heavy with pride. "Such matters reflect poor oversight?" Mrs. Clement flushed. Bantry turned away. Slack wrote in his notebook. Carroway continued. "I shall check the tower clock. It drifts. We cannot have bells ringing late. I will see to it." He bowed stiffly, then moved toward the tower door. His shoes tapped each step, his head high. Marple's needles clicked once, then stopped. She looked toward the south wall. Candles burned steady. Wax dripped down. She leaned closer, her head tilted. Something wrong. The wax trails curved west, not east. The stands always leaned east. They always dripped east. Now west. Changed. Moved. Then returned. Dr. Haydock noticed her pause. "Something wrong, Miss Marple?" She kept her eyes on the floor, her voice calm, her tone sharp. "Not wrong. Interesting." The doctor crouched. "What do you see?" She pointed with a finger. "The drippings. They flow against habit. Someone moved the candelabra, after it burned, then put it back." The doctor blinked. But why move it? Her needles rested on her lap, her hands still, her eyes narrow. "That," she murmured, "is the question." The tree stayed dark. The candles wavered. Faces shifted in uneasy glow. Every whisper now held weight. The fuse was false. The candles disturbed. The night no longer safe. Marple leaned back, her words soft, heavy. Meant for no one? Meant for all. "Someone moved the candles," she whispered. The whisper froze the room. The nave stayed dim. Shadows stretched. Children shifted uneasily. Whispers spread. Mrs. Clement raised her head, her voice sharp. "The hymn board is wrong." All eyes turned. The board read 96. It should have read 69. Her steps quickened. She faced the choir. Her gaze fell on Peter Nash. He stood grinning. His sandy hair fell over his eyes. "Peter," she called, "did you change these numbers?" Peter shuffled his feet. His grin widened. "Yes, miss. Only a joke. No harm meant." Her lips thinned. "This is no time for mischief." Her hand pressed her forehead. "Everyone will expect the wrong hymn." The boy lowered his head, but his grin stayed, too wide, too pleased. Marple watched from her corner, knitting silent in her lap. Her eyes lingered on the boy's face. His grin troubled her, not a prankster's smile. Something deeper, almost secret. Mrs. Clement sighed. "I'll fetch corrected sheets. We cannot begin with nonsense on the board." She hurried toward the vestry. Her skirts brushed the aisle. Her muttering trailed behind her. The choir boys snickered. Peter stood proud, still grinning. Slack scratched his chin. Bad time for jokes. His tone heavy, but he wrote nothing. The shadows deepened. Candles flickered uneven. The dark corners grew darker. Figures moved in and out. Every shape looked like more than it was. Bantry stepped closer to Marple, her voice low. "You see, Jane? Too many things wrong at once. The list, the fuse, now the board." Marple's eyes stayed on Peter. The boy shifted from foot to foot, his hands behind his back, still grinning, her voice soft, barely a breath. "Yes, too many." Bantry frowned. "You think it means something?" Marple did not answer at once. Her fingers folded her knitting. Her mind lined each detail, the schedule, the lights, the board, each a step, each timed. Her eyes narrowed. She thought of Peter's grin, not fear, not shame, satisfaction. Bantry pressed her lips. "Coincidence, perhaps. It is Christmas Eve. Everything happens at once." Marple looked at her, her voice firm now, her tone final, number not coincidence. Almost as if planned. The words landed heavy. Slack stopped mid-note. The choir boys froze. Peter's grin faltered. The candles flicked once more. The darkness pressed closer. The night shifted. Marple's words stayed, sharp, unforgiving, her warning plain. Almost as if planned, she said. A crack split the air. The sound echoed sharp. Heads turned, gasps followed. The star fell. Gold paint flashed once. Then shattered on stone. Fragments scattered wide. Children screamed. Mothers pulled them close. Mrs. Pike staggered back. Her hand clutched her chest, her face pale. "I stood there 2 minutes ago," she whispered. The Reverend hurried forward. "Thank heaven you moved." His voice shook. Dr. Haydock steadied Pike. "You are safe, but shaken. Sit a moment." Lady Bantry bent low. Her hand touched the wreckage. Her brow furrowed. "See this," she said. "The safety? Wire cut." Inspector Slack knelt beside her. He picked up a twisted end, edges sharp, clean cut, not frayed, not worn. His voice deep. "Deliberate, not accident." Mrs. Clement pressed her mouth shut. Her hand trembled. But why cut it? Who would dare? The whispers swelled. Children clung to robes. The choir scattered back. Miss Marple stepped forward, her knitting bag tucked under her arm, her eyes calm, her tone even. "Let me see." Bantry handed her the piece. Marple turned it slowly in her fingers. She studied the ends. Twisted back together crudely, she nodded once. This was meant to hold. Hold just long enough. Then fail. Slack frowned. Fail when? Marple looked at the fallen star. When the one above had already climbed down, when no danger touched them. The implication spread. A plan, not chance. A hand behind the fall. The organ blower roared, the sound sudden, harsh, filling the nave. People covered their ears, voices drowned, questions lost in noise. Slack shouted, "Who started that?" No answer, only the mechanical roar. Lady Bantry acted. "Mrs. Pike, come with me. We need proper wire, pins too, from the vicarage." Pike nodded, grateful to leave, her steps quick, her hands still shaking. The crash had rattled them all. A miracle no one was struck, a warning, more than a wound. Marple stood apart. Her eyes scanned the shadows, her thoughts silent, patterns forming, distractions piling. She moved toward the ringer's shelf, her steps slow. Her hand brushed along the row, bells lined neatly, each in place. Her finger stopped, one space empty. She counted again, then again. Her lips pressed thin, her eyes narrowed, the shelf incomplete. She spoke but not loud. Enough for herself, enough for suspicion. One handbell missing. The noise from the organ drowned all else, but her words stayed inside her, pointing a finger, suggesting a culprit, yet too soon, too simple, too neat. Marple finds the missing handbell. The ringers entered, faces stern, voices raised. "Problem," said Tom Hartwell. "The Muffles are missing." Slack turned fast. "Missing?" Tom nodded. "Gone, nowhere in the tower." Young Jim Foster stepped forward, his voice eager, quick. "We searched the shelf. Empty." Whispers spread. The choir muttered. Children stared. Mrs. Clement gasped. "They were there yesterday. I saw them." Hartwell folded his arms. "Not now." Mrs. Price stepped out. Keys dangled at her waist. Her voice clipped. "I keep spares." She moved brisk, unlocked a cupboard, pulled leather pads free, held them high. "Here, use these." Tom frowned. "These are wrong." He turned them in his hands, too small. Buckles reversed, not fit for St. Mary Mead's bells. "They won't hold," Jim muttered. "Impossible fit." Slack stepped closer. His eyes narrowed. "When did you last see the proper set?" Mrs. Price stood tall. "Yesterday. I checked myself." Her tone hard, her chin high. Slack wrote notes. "So they vanished overnight?" "Yes," she snapped. her voice firm, her eyes cold. "You'll have to use these. We cannot wait." Tom's lips pressed thin, his hands heavy. He did not argue, but his eyes showed doubt. The noise swelled. Steps echoed from the loft. Carroway returned. His hands brushed dust from his sleeves, his face smug. "I examined the clock," he said. "It runs slow." As I thought, he looked at the ringers, at Slack, at Mrs. Price, his tone sharp. "Such disorder. Most improper." No one replied. The organ-blower roared again, the sound harsh, filling every corner, shaking voices. Slack shouted over it, "Turn it off!" No answer, only the mechanical howl. Children covered their ears. Mrs. Clement pressed her temples. Even the Reverend winced. Tom glared upward. "Who touched the blower?" No reply. The roar grew heavier. Marple sat still, her hands folded, her eyes sharp. She watched faces, each twitch, each look away. Suspicion spread like shadow. Muffles gone, spare ones useless, noise filling the nave. Her thoughts lined the pattern, step by step. Each mishap scattered people, each mistake left gaps. Too many gaps, too many chances. Bantry leaned near Marple, her lips close. Again. Another thing wrong? Marple gave no answer. Her eyes stayed on Mrs. Price, her knitting untouched. The roar pressed harder. It drowned speech. It swallowed breath. It crushed thought. Then a sound broke through. Different, sharp, final, a thud. Stone against body, rolling weight, echoing down the tower. Every head turned, eyes wide, breath caught. Silence held for a beat. Then shouts broke. "From the tower!" Slack moved first, his steps fast. The ringers followed. Panic gripped the church. Marple rose slowly, her eyes narrowed, her hands steady. She whispered low. Forced silence hides darker noise. A dull thud echoed from the tower. The noise stopped. The blower silenced. The nave held its breath. Then cries, sharp, urgent. "Here! Down here!" People rushed to the tower door. Slack pushed forward. Tom Hartwell met him halfway, his face pale, his hands shaking. "It's Carroway," he gasped. "At the bottom." They crowded in. The narrow stair twisted down. At the foot lay Carroway, his body twisted, his head bent wrong. Mrs. Clement covered her mouth. Children clung to her skirts. Lady Bantry whispered a prayer. Dr. Haydock crouched, his hands firm, his eyes steady. He touched the neck, then pulled back. "Broken," he said. Instant, no saving him. Slack straightened, his tone firm. "An accident." He fell. Haydock shook his head slightly, but he did not speak. Marple stepped closer, her knitting bag at her side, her eyes on the body, not fearful, not shocked, searching. She bent low. Her finger touched Carroway's temple, a mark. Dark, round, not from stone. She spoke soft. "A bruise here. Before the fall." Slack frowned. Could be from the steps. Marple's head tilted, her voice firm. "Number the edges wrong. This was struck," Slack wrote in his notebook. But his face showed doubt. "Still could be fall." Marple said nothing more. Her eyes stayed on the bruise. Her thoughts turned, pattern upon pattern. From the stair above, footsteps echoed, slow, heavy. Then Mrs. Price appeared, a pouch clutched in her hand, her face drawn, her lips thin. Slack turned on her. "What's that?" She hesitated, then held it out. "Just collection pouches. I brought them down." The ringers exchanged glances. Tom muttered low. "They're always stored upstairs." Slack narrowed his eyes. "Why bring them now?" Mrs. Price looked away, her hands tight around the pouch. She did not answer. Whispers grew again, the crowd restless, eyes darted, suspicion spread. Dr. Haydock stood. He looked at Slack, his voice low. "You must see this for more than accident?" Slack grunted. His eyes stayed fixed on Price. but his words avoided judgment. "We'll examine more later." Marple folded her hands. Her gaze lifted up the stair, her mind running ahead. Too many pieces now, too many accidents. Her whisper barely rose. "No accident leaves such order." Then another voice, from above, urgent, breathless. Tom Hartwell shouted down, "Inspector, better come up here." The call echoed through the tower door closed. Voices still buzzed, questions filled the nave. But Mrs. Clement tugged Marple's sleeve. "Quickly," she whispered, "come to the kitchen." Marple followed without protest, through the side door, into the vicarage. Steam filled the room. Mrs. Clement bent over a pot, her hands flustered, her face strained. "The pudding is ruined," she cried. "Curdled, all of it." Marple stepped forward. Her eyes scanned the pot, her hands steady. "Not ruined, not yet." She took a spoon. She stirred, her voice calm, her movements sure. "Too much heat. You must cool it, then stir again." Mrs. Clement obeyed. She cooled the mix. She stirred, slow, careful. The pudding smoothed, the lumps faded, the curdling eased. A breath of relief left her. "You saved it. How do you always know?" Marple's eyes twinkled faint. Her voice soft. "Years of practice, nothing more." But her gaze shifted, not to the pot, to the shelf nearby. On it sat a row of handbells, small, brass, gleaming faint. She moved closer. Her finger traced one. Polish stained the rim, unusual. Too bright. Her brows knit. Her thoughts ran fast. The bruise on Carroway's temple, round, exact. A bell could fit. She did not speak it. Not yet. Mrs. Clement sighed again. "Everything is going wrong. The list, the lights, the star, now even the pudding." Marple nodded slowly, her voice quiet. "But each mishap, do you see the pattern?" Mrs. Clement looked puzzled. "Pattern?" "Yes. The schedule drew you away. The lights forced Lug aside. The star sent Pike to fetch wire. Now the pudding drags you here. Each trouble pulls someone from the hall." Mrs. Clement frowned. "But why scatter us?" Marple's eyes lowered, her knitting still in her bag, her mind fixed on the silence after each chaos. Who used it? Who moved in that gap? Her lips pressed, her thought sharpened. Privacy created, privacy used. Mrs. Clement wrung her hands. "We should return. They need us." Marple agreed with a nod, but her voice stayed low, firm, heavy. "Every accident bought time. Every mistake gave space. Each silence hid footsteps." She turned her head, her eyes on the bells. Her hand touched the polished rim again, her mind certain now. She whispered, words cold, measured, clear. "Privacy for murder." Her whisper hung in the kitchen air. The choir stalls stood empty. Pages scattered beneath the seats. Marple bent down. Her hand brushed paper. She lifted it slowly, a folded sheet. She opened it. Her eyes scanned the lines. Her lips pressed. The original schedule, typed clean, untouched. She held it against the other, side by side, one honest, one false. Her finger traced the letters. Here the E was raised. Here the O was faint. A different machine, a different hand. She folded them again, placed them flat. Her voice carried calm. "This is not mistake. This is forgery." Slack approached, his brow furrowed. "Forgery?" Marple nodded once. "The first is mine, typed by Mrs. Clement. The second is altered, typed by another, placed to confuse." Slack scratched his chin. He looked around. The vestry boys stared. The choir whispered. "But why alter timings?" Slack asked. "Why 15 minutes?" Marple's voice low. 15 minutes gave silence. 15 minutes scattered all. 15 minutes created shadows. Slack shifted uneasily. His pen tapped his notebook. "You mean planned?" "Yes," Marple said, her eyes firm. Each change forced a gap. Each gap gave chance. The list was the first step. Bantry leaned closer, her voice hushed. Each trouble pushes someone away. That is what you said. Marple nodded. Her fingers brushed the forged page, and in those gaps, acts unseen. Slack moved toward the pulpit. He tapped the rail. Unseen acts? Such as what? Marple's eyes followed his hand, her tone even. Tampering, theft, perhaps worse. Slack frowned deeper. You suggest motive beyond mischief. Marple turned her gaze down. Her hand pointed to the offertory box, a small wooden chest near the vestry door. She stepped closer. Her finger ran along its edge. Fresh scratches marked the wood. The lock bent, faint. Recently forced. She looked back at Slack, her eyes sharp, her words steady. Someone needed time. Time to reach this box. Time to open it. Time to hide what they took. Slack bent low. He touched the marks himself. Fresh, rough, not old, not wear. His face darkened. He glanced at Marple, his words low. You mean this wasn't only murder? Marple did not flinch, her voice firm. Number, this was money. This was scandal. The choir boys drew back. Bantry's breath caught. Mrs. Clement gasped. Marple's hand rested on the scratches, her thought heavy, her whisper plain. Someone risked Christmas Eve, risked murder, for what lay inside this box. She showed the scratches on the offertory box. The nave was dark, candles snuffed, benches empty. Sergeant Lake stood by the door. Marple sat near him, knitting bag on her lap, her needles silent. The clock ticked steady, minutes dragged, shadows lay heavy. Lake muttered low. Feels strange, like the whole church is holding its breath. Marple gave no reply. Her eyes stayed fixed ahead, her ears sharp, her thoughts sharper. Silence pressed. Only the clock, only the faint wind under the door. Then, footsteps, slow, measured, from the vestry. Lake straightened. His hand touched his truncheon. Marple leaned slightly forward. The steps grew louder, closer. Then the door creaked open. Mrs. Price entered, her cloak wrapped tight, her face pale. Her hands clutched a parcel. Lake stepped forward. Out late, Mrs. Price? His tone steady. Suspicion edged his words. She froze. Her eyes darted. Her lips pressed thin. No harm. Just church matters. Lake's eyes narrowed. At midnight? She gripped the parcel tighter. It needed care. I could not wait till morning. Marple rose slowly, her steps quiet, her eyes calm, but piercing. What care, my dear? She asked, her voice soft, almost kind. Mrs. Price shifted, her breath quickened, her shoulders trembled. It is nothing. Only small things. Nothing to trouble you. Lake moved closer. Then show us. Now. She hesitated, her knuckles white against the parcel, her body stiff, her eyes lowered. Marple watched closely. The same calm patience. No hurry, no pressure. Mrs. Price swallowed, her voice faint. It must not be misunderstood. Lake's voice sharpened. Open it, or I will. Her hands shook. The parcel slipped slightly. She steadied it fast. Her eyes glistened. Marple stepped closer, her voice low, her words cutting through the fear. The truth waits inside. Best let it speak now. Mrs. Price's shoulders sagged. Her strength faltered. Her eyes closed. Her hands opened the string. The cloth fell back. Objects spilled faint in the dim light. Lake bent down. He lifted one piece, a pair of metal cutters, stained faint with polish. Then another. Leather muffles. The right, size the missing set. And a sheet of paper, typed, altered, the draft schedule. Lake's breath caught. Marple's eyes narrowed, her voice steady. So, she whispered, the night explains itself. Mrs. Price trembled. Her lips moved, but no words came. Her eyes dropped to the floor. Her secret lay open. Inside the parcel, tools, Muffles, and the draft schedule. The parcel lay open. Silence pressed the room, every eye fixed on its contents. Lake crouched. He lifted the cutters. The metal glinted faint, his brow furrowed. "Wire snips," he said. His finger rubbed the edge. A smear came away. Gold paint. Marple leaned forward, her voice calm. "From the star. Cut clean, not broken. These did it." Mrs. Clement gasped. Her hand covered her mouth. The choir boys shuffled back. Lake set the snips down. He picked up the muffles, leather dark. Buckles firm. "The missing set?" he muttered. "These are proper, the ones meant for the tower." He turned them over, no doubt. The real ones, hidden until now. Slack stepped into the aisle, his face hard, deliberately concealed. Mrs. Price stood stiff, her hands clenched, her lips thin. Lake lifted the paper next, typed lines, blotted letters, corrections in ink. "The draft schedule," he said. He held it out. Marple took it. Her eyes scanned fast, her lips pressed. "Altered, shifted times. This is the forgery, the false list, placed in the choir." The Reverend shook his head. "Why? What reason could there be?" No one answered, only the shuffle of feet. Lake reached again. A rag lay at the bottom. He pulled it free. The smell hit first, sharp, bitter. "Polish," he said. He wrinkled his nose. "Brass polish." Marple's eyes sharpened, her voice clear. "Used to clean the bells. Used also to hide the stain of blood. The rim of a bell can strike as hard as a fist." Mrs. Clement gasped again. Her eyes darted to Marple. "You mean the bruise?" Marple gave a slow nod, her words firm. "Yes, the bruise on Caraway's temple. This rag cleaned the mark from the weapon, then hid it here." Silence again. Every piece laid bare. Snips, muffles, schedule, polish, each tied to sabotage. Mrs. Price trembled, her face pale, her voice cracked. "You don't understand." Slack stepped forward. "Then help us, make us understand." Her hands shook, her eyes wet, her body swayed. "I had to," she whispered, her tone broken, her words desperate. "You don't understand. I had to." Lake's eyes narrowed. "Had to? Why? For what reason?" Her gaze dropped to the floor. Her shoulders sagged. Her lips parted. The truth slipped out. "It was for my brother," she said. She admitted it in a whisper. The brazier glowed faint. Ash piled high. Marple stepped closer. Her hand lifted the poker. She stirred the heap. Black flakes drifted up. "Careful," Slack muttered. His eyes watched her. His pencil, ready. She prodded deeper. A curled edge appeared, half burned, half saved. She bent low. She pulled it free. A hymn sheet. The number scorched. "Look," she said. "Burnt numbers, destroyed to hide error." Slack took it. The edges crumbled in his hand. "Why burn a hymn list?" Marple's eyes narrowed. Not just list. Evidence. She turned back. Her poker scraped again. Another scrap lifted, thicker, darker. Ledger paper, lines faint, figures blurred, half erased by fire. She held it high. "Accounts," she said, "from the church books." Slack's face hardened. He reached for it, his voice grim. "So it was money?" Marple gave a single nod. "Fraud, hidden through flames." The Reverend stepped forward, his voice cracked. "Church accounts?" "Burned?" Slack turned on him. "You should have guarded them." The Reverend paled. He said no more. Dr. Haydock entered from the tower, his coat smudged with dust, his face heavy. "I examined again," he said. "The bruise, it matches a curve." A rim. Slack frowned. "A rim?" Haydock nodded. The edge of a handbell. Too round, too clean, not from stone. Murmurs spread. Bantry gasped. Mrs. Clement clutched her husband's arm. Marple placed the poker aside, her hands folded, her eyes down. "Each piece speaks," she said. "The list forged, the lights tampered, the star cut, The Muffles hidden, the accounts burned, and now the bruise. Slack exhaled slowly. So the bell struck him, and someone burned the proof. Marple gave a slow nod, her voice soft, her words heavy. Yes, the bell was weapon, the fire was cover. Mrs. Price stood apart, her face drained, her hands trembled, her lips pressed. She said nothing. But her eyes darted, always back to the brazier, always back to the ash. Marple watched her closely, her mind already decided. The pieces fit, the story set. She whispered low, almost gentle, almost kind. Nothing hides forever, not even ash. The silence grew thick. Slack waited. Haydock said no more. The Reverend shook his head. Marple looked at them all, her words final, clear, measured. The weapon was polished. Her voice cut the room cold. Dr. Haydock placed it on the table. A handbell, brass, heavy. Marple leaned in, her eyes sharp, her lips pressed. "The missing one?" she said. Slack crossed his arms. "Found in your surgery?" Haydock nodded. "One of the nurses brought it in, left outside my door. I thought it odd." Slack bent low. He sniffed, then grimaced. "Smells of polish." Marple reached out. Her finger brushed the rim. A faint smear remained. Not dust. Polish. Her eyes flickered. Back to the bruise, back to the rag, back to the silence after the fall. Haydock's voice was low. "It matches, shape and size, the wound on his temple." The Reverend groaned. His hand covered his face. "God forgive us." Mrs. Clement stood stiff, her voice a whisper, a bell used for murder. Slack straightened, his eyes cold, his voice clipped. "No accident then? Not at all." He reached into his case, pulled a bundle of slips. He spread them on the table. "From her house," he said, his tone sharp. "Duplicate offertory slips, week after week, funds diverted." Bantry gasped. "Systematic?" Slack nodded. "For months, maybe years, not mistake, fraud, long-term." Planned Marple's hands folded. Her eyes turned inward. She remembered the polish on Mrs. Price's cuff, a faint shine, easy to miss, now clear, her voice soft. She handled it. She struck him. She cleaned it. Mrs. Clement swayed, her face pale, her voice cracked. "Mrs. Price, but she is devoted." Marple's gaze held steady. Devotion hides many things, even theft, even murder. The choir boys whispered, fear in their voices, shock in their eyes. Haydock lowered his head, his voice heavy. He was silenced, not fallen, not stumbled, struck first. Slack gathered the slips, his jaw tight, his words flat. "The motive plain, the evidence here, every step points the same way." Marple did not smile, her face grave, her voice low. "Truth never heals easily, but it cannot be avoided." Silence fell again. The brazier hissed faint in the corner. The bell sat heavy on the table, its shine almost cruel. Slack looked at it once more, his voice a growl. "So she struck him and pushed him." His words closed the circle. Peter Nash stood by the wall, hands behind his back, his grin faint, but still there. Slack pointed. "You again, boy. Step forward." Peter shuffled closer. His shoes scraped the stone floor. His eyes darted. Slack frowned. Why grin when a man lies dead? Peter shrugged. "Wasn't me. I didn't do anything." Marple's eyes fixed on him, calm, patient, her voice soft. "You know more than you've told." Peter blinked. His grin twitched, then widened again. "I only heard something. Didn't matter." Slack snapped. "Speak clearly." The boy hesitated. He looked at the choir stalls. He looked at the door, then at Marple. Her gaze did not move. Her silence pressed harder than Slack's demand. Peter's voice dropped. "Mrs. Price, I heard her talking." Slack leaned forward. "When?" "Last night." Peter said. His eyes flickered. I was hiding in the choir, playing tricks. She didn't see me. Marple leaned closer. What did she say? Peter hesitated again. His hands fidgeted. Then the words spilled. She said, "If he audits tonight, I'm ruined." The room stilled. Every sound stopped. Only the boy's words hung in the air. Mrs. Clement gasped. Lady Bantry's hand flew to her chest. The Reverend shut his eyes. Slack's pen froze. Mid-note. He lifted his head slowly. You're certain? Peter nodded fast. I thought it was just a prayer. She was by the altar. I thought she prayed aloud. That's why I didn't tell. It sounded like prayer. Marple's eyes softened, her voice gentle. Not prayer, child. Confession. Peter bit his lip, his grin gone, his face pale now. Slack turned to the others, his tone heavy. You all heard him. No one spoke. No one needed to. Marple folded her hands, her voice calm. The motive stands clear. Carroway threatened an audit. She feared exposure, and so she planned. Mrs. Clement whispered. But she was always loyal, always devoted. Marple looked at her, her eyes sad. Loyalty to family can twist duty. Devotion to pride can birth sin. Peter shifted. He glanced at Slack. Am I in trouble? Slack shook his head. Not trouble, but you carried truth, and now it's out. The boy nodded slowly. His shoulders slumped. The weight lifted. But fear still lingered in his eyes. Marple's gaze stayed steady, her voice quiet. Children often see what adults ignore, but even small eyes cannot hold such secrets forever. Slack closed his notebook, his voice flat. Truth no longer deniable. The witness sealed it. The hall fell silent. Faces turned. Slack stepped forward. Mrs. Price stood rigid. Her eyes darted. Her hands twisted her keys. Slack's tone cut through. Enough! We have the proof. He laid items on the table. The cutters, the muffles, the forged schedule, the burnt slips, and the bell. Every piece points here, he said. To you. Mrs. Price shook her head, her voice thin. You don't understand. Slack's jaw tightened. Explain, then. Her hands shook, her voice cracked. I only borrowed, for my brother. His shop was failing. He begged me. I thought it was harmless. The Reverend whispered, You took church funds? Her eyes fell. Yes, I thought I could repay. Week by week. No one would know. Slack tapped the forged sheet. And when Carroway pressed for audit? Her shoulders sagged. Her eyes welled. Her lips trembled. I panicked. If he found the gaps, all would be ruined. My brother shamed. My name lost. Marple's voice rose softly. Fear drives deeper sins. Mrs. Price nodded faint, her breath unsteady. So I made chaos, one distraction after another. The list, the lights, the star, the muffles, all of it. Slack's eyes narrowed. You staged every mishap. She nodded again, her voice hollow. Yes, so no one would see me, so I could move unseen, so I could hide what I burned. Mrs. Clement stepped back. Her voice broke. All of us trusted you. Mrs. Price's face twisted. Her words rushed. I loved this parish. I served it for years, but I could not watch my family starve. I chose wrong. I chose ruin. Slack's tone hardened. And Carroway? Her body shook. She gripped the table. Her head dropped. He cornered me. He said he would demand audit tonight. Said he would expose me. Said nothing would remain hidden. She choked on her words. I begged him. He refused. I had no choice. Marple's voice low. There is always choice, but fear blinds. Mrs. Price's tears fell. I struck him with the bell, only once. I thought he would stop. I thought he would let me pass. Slack leaned closer, but he fell. She sobbed. I pushed. I did not think. I only wanted silence, only a moment to breathe. The room stayed hushed. No one moved. No one spoke. Mrs. Price clutched her chest, her words ragged, her eyes hollow. I never meant to kill. Her sobs filled the silence. The cuffs clicked. Slack gave the nod. Lake led her away. Mrs. Price did not resist. Her steps slow, her eyes down, her face hollow. Children stared, their whispers sharp. Was it her? She killed him. Adults turned aside. Some shook their heads. Some held back tears. The weight of betrayal pressed hard. The Reverend stood stiff. His voice cracked. The service cannot go on. Not tonight. The choir fell silent. Books closed. Candles left unlit. Lady Bantry gathered her shawl, her eyes heavy. She looked at Marple. Shall we go? Marple nodded. They stepped out together. The night was cold. Their pace was slow. The vicarage fire burned low. They sat near it. Bantry placed her hands on her lap. Marple folded her knitting bag. Silence lingered. Neither spoke at first. The fire cracked faint. The house seemed smaller. At last, Bantry sighed, her voice weary. All this on Christmas Eve? Marple's eyes lowered, her tone quiet. It is never the day that matters. It is the heart that chooses, and hers chose wrong. Bantry looked away, her lips pressed thin. She stole from her church. She struck her own organist. She shamed us all. Marple's hands rested still, her eyes thoughtful. She feared disgrace. She thought love excused theft, but fear only tightens the trap. Bantry shook her head, and we trusted her for years, never doubted. Marple gave a faint nod. Trust blinds us. That is its cost. It lets shadows hide in plain sight. The fire flickered. Bantry's voice softened. Children will remember this. They will whisper about it for years. Marple looked into the glow. Perhaps they should. So they learn early that greed ruins joy. Bantry sighed again. Her shoulders slumped, her face drawn. Christmas should heal, not wound. Marple's gaze met hers, her eyes calm, her voice low. Even joy carries risk. Even peace tempts envy. The season changes nothing. Bantry leaned back, her tone bitter. All these candles, all these hymns, all wasted. Marple shook her head gently. Not wasted, revealing. It showed us what lay hidden. It forced truth into light. The room fell quiet. Only the fire breathed. The night waited. Bantry broke the silence, her voice almost pleading. Tell me, Jane, why now? Why tonight of all nights? Marple's answer came soft, measured, heavy. Because greed waits for no day. It finds its moment, even in joy, even in Christmas. She leaned back, her hands folded, her eyes stayed firm. Even in joy, greed finds a way. The bells stood still, no peal, no ring, only silence. Yet the silence carried weight, a funeral tone without sound. Everyone felt it. The parish was broken. Children whispered of murder. Adults whispered of shame. Every voice careful. Every step subdued. The Reverend walked heavy, his eyes down. His lips moved in prayer. But the words held no comfort. Mrs. Clement sat apart, her hands folded, her face drawn. She had no strength to speak. Lady Bantry looked at Marple, her voice low. Can the village recover? Marple's eyes softened, her reply calm. Yes, but slowly. Truth heals. It does not erase. Bantry nodded, faint, her gaze lowered. Friendships cracked, trust broken. It will never feel the same. Marple folded her hands, her tone steady. It never does. When betrayal is found, it leaves scars that never fade. Scars remind, scars warn. The choir boys huddled close, their chatter hushed. One asked another, "Will we sing again?" No one answered. The question hung heavy. The adults mourned, not only a death, not only fraud, but the loss of innocence, the loss of peace. Slack gave his final word. She will face trial. Justice will follow. That is all we can do. But justice felt thin, hollow. It could not restore the trust. It could not mend the bonds. Marple sat by the fire again, Bantry beside her, the glow faint, the room quiet. Bantry whispered, "Christmas should have been joy. Now it will be remembered for this." Marple's gaze stayed fixed, her voice soft. Joy was here once, but greed touched it, and greed leaves marks. That joy cannot cover. Bantry's eyes glistened. She shook her head. "All these years, I thought we were safe." Marple's answer came slow, measured, gentle. "No place is safe, not from fear, not from pride, not from greed." The night grew late. The house grew still, yet unease lingered. A wound lay open, and healing would take time. The bells outside remained silent, their stillness a warning, their stillness a memory. Marple leaned back. Her words came soft, but each one carried weight. Truth heals, but scars remain, and they remind us that trust, once broken, cannot return as it was. Her eyes lowered, her hands folded, her tone final. This Christmas is marked forever, not by joy, not by hymns, but by betrayal. The fire sank lower, shadows edged closer, the silence thickened again. Marple's whisper closed the night, her words clear, her words heavy. And still, in every season of joy, shadows wait.